The iron beast wheezed to a stop, black smoke curling into the Wyoming sky like a warning from God himself. Clara Whitmore pressed her gloved hands to the train window, her breath fogging the glass as the desolate platform of Rock Creek Station appeared through the dust and steam. Her wedding dress, once a bright symbol of hope, was now the color of old bone. She had worn it for 3 long days from Chicago, clinging to one last fragile chance at freedom. "Ma'am," the conductor said gently, eyeing her dress and pale face.
"You sure someone's meeting you?"
Clara forced a smile she didn't feel. "My husband. He promised he'd be waiting." Her voice barely held. There was no husband waiting. Couldn't be. The man she'd been forced to marry, Doyle Crane, had died 2 weeks earlier in a saloon fight. But news traveled slow out here, and she had gambled everything on reaching Rock Creek before the truth did. She stepped off the train into the August heat. It slammed into her like a wall, dizzying and heavy. Her carpet bag, 2 dresses and her mother's Bible, dragged at her arm. She steadied herself against a post, silently counting breaths. Then a small voice cut through the dust. "Mama." Clara froze. A boy around 6 or 7 stood near the water tower, sandy hair falling into bright blue eyes she knew too well, eyes belonging to the only man she had ever loved. "That's my mama," the boy announced proudly, pointing at Clara. "She's wearing the dress just like Pa said." Clara's heart stuttered. What's your father's name?" she whispered. "James Callahan," the boy said easily. "He owns the Double C Ranch, best horseman in the whole territory. And he can shoot a rabbit at—" "Tommy!" a woman barked from across the platform. "Get back here, boy!" But Tommy ignored her and walked closer. "Pa said my mama would come back someday, said she'd wear a white dress like an angel." He searched her face with heartbreaking trust. "Are you really her?" Before Clara could speak, a voice rolled across the platform like thunder. Tommy. The sound of it nearly brought Clara to her knees. James Callahan. He stepped into view, taller than she remembered, shoulders broad from years of ranch work. His black hair was longer, tied back, and a thin scar sliced across his eyebrow. His storm gray eyes, once warm with love for her, were now icy, hard. "Get away from him," James said, hand dropping to the Colt at his hip. "Mrs. Catteridge and Mextrop. Henderson, take Tommy to the wagon." Tommy protested, but the woman ushered him off. The boy kept looking back, confusion written all over him. James stepped forward, stopping only 2 feet from Clara. She could smell leather, tobacco, and the familiar scent of the man she had loved since she was 17. "Clara," he said tightly. "Or should I say Mrs. Crane?" She flinched. So he knew.
"James, please."
"Let me explain." "Explain." His laugh was sharp as broken glass. "Explain how you promised to wait for me, how you swore you loved me, how you married another man 3 months after I left for the cavalry." "I didn't have a choice," Clara whispered. "My father, your father," James cut in, circling her like a wounded predator, "offered me money to stay away. Did you know that? Said his daughter was too good for a half-Irish ranch hand. Said you'd chosen someone more suitable." "That's not true," she said, voice breaking. "No." He stepped closer. "Where were you when I came back for you? When I stood in your parlor like a fool with a ring in my pocket? Your father told me you had married Doyle Crane and moved east." Clara felt her knees weaken. "I wrote to you," she said desperately. "I begged you to come for me. My father had my letters destroyed. He forced a wedding on me I never agreed to. He drugged me, James. He—" "Convenient," James said coldly, "now that Doyle is dead." "James, please," she whispered. "I never stopped loving you. Not for one day." He jerked his arm away when she reached for him. "Love? Clara, love is raising a boy alone because his mother died giving birth. Love is building a ranch with bloody hands. Love is surviving the hole someone left in you." His voice turned raw, "And you left that hole." Clara felt tears she refused to shed. "If you won't believe me," she said quietly, "at least let me." Destroy what little peace I have left? James snapped. Confuse my son with lies? He stepped back, jaw tightening. There's a boarding house in town? Mrs. Murphy takes strays. Stay there until the next train east. He turned away. James, she called after him, voice trembling. I buried my husband 2 weeks ago. I could have gone anywhere, but I came here. Ask yourself why. He paused, shoulders rigid. But he didn't turn back. Clara watched him walk away. The man she had crossed half the country for. The man who believed she had betrayed him. The man who now hated her. But she wasn't leaving. Not this time. She picked up her carpet bag and headed toward town. Her white wedding dress dragged behind her in the red Wyoming dust like a wounded ghost. She would fight. For James. For the truth. For the life that had been stolen from them both. The storm rolled in from the mountains like a living beast, swallowing the afternoon sun until the world darkened to an iron gray. Clara stood at the boarding house window, forehead pressed to the cool glass, watching sheets of rain slap the dusty street. She had been in Rock Creek for 3 long days, 3 days of whispered gossip, curious stares, and the constant ache of knowing James was less than 5 miles away, yet completely unreachable. You'll catch your death standing there, Mrs. Tucker, Murphy said from her rocking chair, knitting needles clicking steadily. The older woman didn't look up, though I suspect you're planning something foolish anyway. Clara turned from the window, clutching the oilcloth she'd been patching. What makes you think that? Child, I've run this house for 15 years. I know the look of a woman about to do something that'll either save her soul or break it clean in half. Mrs. Murphy's knitting paused. You're fixing to go to the Double C, aren't you? Clara hesitated, then nodded. Tommy's got summer fever, Mrs. Dukesbell left. Murphy added softly. Henderson boy had it last week. It hits children hard, harder on their parents. Clara's chest tightened. She hadn't known. She hadn't dared go near the ranch. James made that clear. Still, Tommy, I need to go to him, she said. Even if James hates me, the boy doesn't. Mrs. Murphy sighed deeply. There's an old mare in the stable. She'll get you there. Take oilcloth. Storm's mean tonight. Clara wrapped herself as best she could and stepped out into the fury of the Wyoming storm. The wind pushed at her like angry hands. The rain soaked through every seam of the borrowed cloak. She clung to the mare, shaking with cold, praying the next flash of lightning wouldn't strike too close. By the time the Double C ranch house came into view, warm lamplight glowing through the windows, her lips were blue and her hands nearly numb. She slid off the mare at the gate and almost fell. Before she could knock, the front door flew open. James stood there, rifle in hand, eyes blazing, until recognition hit him. Then something like horror crossed his face. Clara, are you insane? He grabbed her arm and hauled her inside. You could have died. How's Tommy? She managed through shivering teeth. James froze. You came here for him? His voice cracked with disbelief. Rode in this storm for him? She nodded weakly. His jaw tightened. Strip. Clara blinked. What? You're soaked through, he snapped. If you don't get dry clothes on, you'll freeze. I'll turn around. He did, shoulders rigid, giving her privacy. Clara's fingers shook as she peeled off the wet dress. He tossed a blanket behind him. There are dry clothes in the chest, he said. They were Mary's. She dressed quickly, swallowing the lump in her throat. Tommy's mother. The woman James had loved after Clara was torn away. You can turn around, she whispered. James faced her, and for a heartbeat Clara saw worry, raw and unguarded, written in every line of his face. Tommy's upstairs, he said, voice low. Fever broke this morning, but it came back tonight. Clara didn't wait. She ran. Upstairs, Tommy lay small and pale beneath blankets, his hair damp with sweat. He stirred at the sound of her step. The angel lady, he whispered hoarsely, trying to sit up. Clara rushed to him, brushing his hair back gently. Shh, sweetheart, I'm here. James sat on the other side of the bed, exhausted. Tommy needs water, he muttered, standing abruptly and leaving the room. Clara knew he was running, again, from the sight of her with his son. But Tommy needed her more. She stayed. She held his hand, sang softly, laid cool cloths on his forehead. She stayed the way a mother would stay. When James returned, he stopped in the doorway, frozen, watching her.
Tommy dreamt you were here, Clara whispered without looking up.
He said I sang to him. James swallowed hard. For a long moment he didn't move. Then he stepped inside. Hours passed. They worked together in quiet rhythm, changing cloths, coaxing spoonfuls of tea, steadying Tommy when he thrashed with fever. Sweat glistened on James's brow. Clara's voice grew hoarse from singing. At last, near dawn, the fever began to break. Tommy's breathing eased, his skin cooled. He slept deeply. Clara slumped back, relief washing over her. James sat beside her, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. I can't lose him, he whispered. Clara, he's all I have. Clara touched his arm gently. He's strong, like his father. James didn't answer, but he didn't pull away either. When he finally lifted his head, there was something new in his eyes. Not anger, not hatred, fear. And underneath it, something softer. Clara, he said, voice hoarse, I need to know the truth. She saw the struggle in him, the cracked wall he'd built around his heart shifting under its own weight. So she answered, quietly, honestly, painfully. She told him everything. The forced wedding, the drugging, the years of abuse at Doyle Crane's hands, the scars, physical and invisible, the terror, the hopelessness. The way James's memory was the only thing that had kept her alive. When she finished, the room was silent except for Tommy's soft breathing. James stared at her. Not with anger, not with disbelief, but devastation. Clara, he said, voice breaking, why didn't you tell me sooner? Would you have believed me? She whispered. You hated me. He flinched. I never hated you, he said. I hated myself. I hated the boy who left you behind. Clara wiped her eyes. James, we were young. We trusted the wrong people. James looked at her for a long time, something raw and dangerous flickering behind his eyes. Then he reached into his vest pocket and pulled out a small daguerreotype. Her, at 17. The picture she'd given him before he left for the cavalry. You kept it, she breathed. I kept it, he said softly, even when I tried to forget you. He looked away, voice rough, even when it tore me apart. For the first time since she returned, Clara felt a spark of hope. Not fragile, not borrowed, real. A storm had brought her to James' doorstep, but another storm had torn open his heart. James, she whispered, taking a shaky breath, I don't want the past anymore. I just want a chance. One chance. Today. Tomorrow will come when it comes. He stared at her, then nodded once, sharp, almost pained. Just today, he said. I can give you that. But Clara heard the truth hiding underneath. Today was only the beginning. The dust cloud on the horizon appeared like a bad omen. Clara was on the porch sorting beans for dinner when she noticed it. A trio of riders approaching the double C, their silhouettes too stiff, too polished to be cowboys from Rock Creek. Tommy, inside, she said quietly. But now, he obeyed, though he peeked through the window, small hands gripping the sill. Clara stepped forward just as James emerged from the barn, his Winchester already in hand. The riders slowed. The lead man dismounted, with the confidence of someone used to being obeyed. He was dressed too fine for the frontier, his coat tailored, his boots polished. With his angular jaw and cold eyes, Clara's stomach dropped. He looked like Doyle. My name is William Crane, he said smoothly. I believe you're harboring my brother's wife. Clara's blood ran cold. Your brother is dead, James said flatly, and Clara owes you nothing. Oh, I disagree. William lifted a stack of papers from his saddlebag. Marriage contracts, financial obligations. She is still bound to our family. She was forced into that marriage, Clara said, stepping down the porch steps. drugged, held down, threatened. None of it was legal. William smiled like a wolf. Prove it. His hired guns shifted, hands hovering near their holsters. James moved subtly, placing his body between Clara and danger. "You're not taking her," James said. "This is my land." "Your land?" William's eyes gleamed. "My brother invested heavily in acquiring his wife. That debt falls to me now. And if she won't come willingly, well..." He looked around the ranch with hungry interest. "This place will make a fine payment." Clara's heart pounded. "Stop," she said desperately. "I'll go." James spun on her. "No, James," she whispered. "If I don't, he'll destroy you. He'll take the ranch. Tommy needs you," James said fiercely. "We both do." William's smile sharpened. "How touching. You have 1 hour, Clara. Then you're coming with me." They watched him ride off. As soon as he was out of range, James grabbed Clara's shoulders. "You're not going anywhere," he said, shaking with emotion. "Not again. Not ever." "James, you don't understand," Clara breathed. "He has influence." "No." "Money. He can make up lies. The law won't protect us." His eyes burned. "Then we run." Clara stared at him. "What?" "We run," he repeated. "All of us. Tommy, you, me. We go to Judge Carter in Laramie. He owes me a favor. He'll listen. And if not, then we keep moving. Together." The word hit her like a prayer. "Together," she whispered. "Together," James vowed. "If you'll come." Clara felt her last bit of fear crumble. Yes, I'll come." They moved quickly, packing bags, saddling horses, dousing lamps. Every moment mattered. Every second felt like it beat too fast. Tommy tugged her skirt anxiously. "Are we running away?" Clara knelt. "We're going on an adventure." "Will Pete come too?" "We all will," James said, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. "Family sticks together." Clara's breath caught. Family. She didn't have time to cry. Not now. They rode hard, the wind biting at their faces, hooves pounding the earth. At one point, James reached over and grabbed her hand. "You're not alone," he said. "I know." And she did, for the first time in years. 3 days later, Judge Carter slammed his gavel down. "This marriage was fraudulent," he declared, "coerced through drugs. Clara Whitmore is free." Free. Clara's knees nearly buckled. James caught her instantly, pulling her against him. William Crane's threats fell apart under the judge's evidence. He was arrested for fraud, forgery, attempted kidnapping. When the cuffs snapped around his wrists, he snarled at Clara. "You'll regret this." "No," Clara said quietly. "I won't." And for once, she knew it was true. The Harvest Festival in Rock Creek was brighter than any summer Clara remembered. Lanterns glowed, fiddles played, the scent of apples and spices drifted through the cool air. People stared at her, not with suspicion anymore, but with respect. And when Tommy ran up yelling "Mama" loud enough for the whole town to hear, no one whispered, no one judged. They just smiled. James walked up behind her, hand brushing hers. "You all right?" he asked. "Yes," Clara said honestly. "For the first time, I am." He hesitated, then said softly, "I want you to stay. Not just for today. Not out of fear. Out of choice." She turned toward him, heart pounding. "And what do you choose?" she whispered. "You," he said simply. "I choose you." Her breath hitched. "Always?" "Always." Tommy barreled into them, grabbing both their hands. "Come on!" The three-legged race. Families raced together. Clara laughed, a bright, free sound she hadn't heard from herself in years. James squeezed her hand. "Family," he said. Her eyes burned. "Yes," she whispered. Family. 2 months later, under a drifting snow sky, Clara stood in front of the mirror in a cream-colored dress. Not a prison dress, not a coerced dress, but her dress. A knock. Tommy peeked in. "Mama? P says he's going to faint if you don't hurry." Clara smiled. Tell him I'm coming." The tiny church was full as she walked down the aisle, not trembling, not scared, but steady. James stood at the altar, eyes soft, full of love, real love this time, freed of pain and pride. When he said, "I do," his voice shook. So did hers. And when he kissed her, the church erupted in cheers. Tommy whooped loudest of all. That night, in their home, James carried her to their bed as snow fell softly outside. He touched her like she was precious. She held him like he was home. "Stay inside me fully," she panted as he pressed her deeper into the mattress, his breath hot on her throat. His voice dropped to a growl that made her tremble. "Only you," he vowed, "only ever you." And under the Wyoming stars, wrapped in the love they had fought so hard for, they finally became whole. Months later, Clara placed James's hand on her stomach. "I'm late," she whispered. He froze. "Are we?" "Yes," she laughed through tears. "We're having a baby." James pulled her into his arms, overwhelmed. Tommy danced around them, shouting about teaching the baby to rope cattle. Clara leaned her head on James's chest. Home, family, freedom, love. All the things she thought she'd lost forever. They had all come back, together.